Uh, Good morning. We will having a case presentation today, and case will be presented by Dr. Milind More. Is a third year JR at IPGMR SK Hospital, Kolkata. He will be presenting on cuts on the floor of the mouth. Dr. Chintamani was supposed to join, but he's busy in theater, but he might join sometime later. So we can start. Milind, share your screen and start the presentation.
So my screen I'm sharing, sir. Is it visible, sir?
Yes, yes. Please.
Yes, sir. Carcinoma of floor of mouth. My patient XYZ, age 55 years, male sex, and Hindu religion, presented with chief complaint of ulcer in the oral cavity for the last 4 months. Patient was apparently well 4 months back when he noticed a rapidly growing ulcer in the on the right side of the floor of the mouth, which was 1 into 1 centimeter initially and is 2 into 3 centimeter presently. Ulcer is associated with intermittent pain for the last 3 months, which is dull aching in nature, exaggerates on taking meals, and was relieved on medication. Now, there is no complaints of discharge or bleeding from the ulcer. There is no history of loosening of teeth. There is no history of trauma to oral cavity. There is no history of difficulty in chewing, swallowing, or speech. There is no history of any constitutional symptoms. No history of swelling in the neck. No history of features suggestive of metastasis. There is no history of high-risk sexual behavior or IV drug abuse. There's no history of exposure to any radiation. There is no history of any ENT, ear, nose, throat complaints, and there is no history of tuberculosis contact. With respect to his past history, patient does not have any known comorbidities such as hypertension, diabetes, COPD, asthma. Patient has no prior history of undergoing any previous surgery. The patient consumes a mixed diet, has normal bowel and bladder habits. His sleep cycle is normal. There is history of smoking of BD, tobacco product, daily for the last 25 years and has stopped it for the last 3 months. There is also a history of occasional alcohol consumption for the last 5 years. There is no history of malignancy in first and second degree relatives, and patient is not known to be allergic to any specific drugs or substances. Sir, I'll stop now.
Okay, yes. So come to the first slide. Next. So you see, the oral cavity is a very large area. So try to give a more clear description of at what site he has noticed the ulcer. Because what do you mean by oral cavity? What is the area you are trying to mean?
Sir, by oral cavity will include the buccal mucosa, the upper and lower alveoli, the tongue, the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, the retromolar trigone, the hard palate, and the floor of the mouth.
Okay, and the lips.
And the lips, yes.
Okay, so once you say there is an ulcer in the oral cavity, then you try to find out from the patient exactly where in the floor of the mouth, in the tongue, or in the lip, or in the gingival sulcus. So that site is important because patient can tell you where the swelling is or the ulcer is.
Yes.
Okay, next. You see, most of the oral cancers are usually squamous cell carcinomas, and unless it is a very anaplastic type of carcinoma, these are all known to grow slowly. And not very usual to find that ulcer in the floor of the mouth or oral cavity is growing very fast. Okay, so usually these are the ulcers or the neoplastic lesion which grows slowly. But in 4 months' time, if the ulcer has become double, it can be called as yes, rapid progressing ulcer. Okay, and then once you are describing the ulcer, patient can tell you the exact location where the ulcer has started. Yes. And then once the ulcer is increasing in size, it can go to the adjacent sites. So the point where the swelling has, the ulcer has started, that is the point where the importance is, and then it involve the adjacent areas. So this will be important for staging and also for planning treatment also.
Right.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes.
next. So you have asked about chewing, swallowing, or speech.
Yes, sir.
What else is are the symptoms of any cancers in the oral cavity?
Sir, there may be excessive salivation
Yes,
due to mass effect.
yeah,
Then,
and
sir,
there may be drooling of saliva. If there is
drooling of
uh, infiltration of the growth to the tongue or to the lips, so there can be drooling of saliva because there will be difficulty in swallowing the saliva also.
yes,
So these are all important symptoms of oral cancers. Okay, and you said no history features a feature sites of metastasis. What are the likely sites of metastasis from oral cancer?
the likely sites are the lung, where he will complain of shortness of breath, or the bones, where he may complain of bone back pain, to the brain or the head, where he might complain of headache. Also, if it
So you see,
metastasizes to the liver,
these commercial cancers are slow growing and they also metastasize very late.
yes.
And the most common site of metastasis is where? Most common site.
So in the upper aerodigestive tract to the subsequently to the lungs, sir, for
Yes,
distant metastasis.
yes. So lungs is very important. Apart from lungs, other distant metastases are rare because in these patients, the local tumor grows, invades the local structure, and most of the patients succumbs to this before there is further metastasis other sites. So the most of the time, the metastasis that is diagnosed is in the lungs. Why is high risk sexual behavior important in patient who has got a oral cancer?
Sir, because we want to know whether there's a possibility of HPV infection or not, because it has now been included in the staging. So
Yeah.
for oropharyngeal cancers, that
HPV
is why
has got a lot of variants. This HPV has a lot of variants. Which HPV variants are implicated for oral cancers?
so primarily HPV 16, but others are also such as 18,
18.
33.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Primarily 16 and 18 are more implicated for oral cancers.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you think? The patient who has got HPV-related cancer and non-HPV cancer, which are more aggressive and poorer prognosis, or anything in relation to the therapy also?
Uh, yes, sir. So the HPV related cancer, sir, it is it is presenting in younger individuals without the risk factors, and it is generally more aggressive.
Okay. And any implication from therapy also?
So implication for therapy, sir,
They often respond to
to keep
targeted therapy.
targeted therapy. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Next. How radiation therapy is implicated in developing oral cancers?
So,
What happened?
sir, if there is a history of exposure to low dose radiation, sir,
Yes.
that is mutagenic, and sir, that can might explain the etiology for the malignancy. So that's why it is important to take that history.
And some patients may have either a exposure to radiation to the natural radiation exposure, or a patient might have been treated earlier for some other disease like lymphomas or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And what is the usual time interval between the radiation exposure and development of malignancy? Usual time interval.
You should, sir, 5 to 10 years.
Yes, around 10 years. So this happens after a long gap, and this is because of mutation. Okay, next. Next. He said he takes he is a smoker,
Yes, sir.
and he also consumes alcohol.
Yes.
How is smoking related to oral cancer?
Sir, smoking, smoking by smoking, sir, the bidi contains nicotine. So the nicotine, it is metabolized into nitrosamines, sir, which are known carcinogens, and they result and over long-term consumption. It is a known risk factor for development of oral cancer. And sir,
What happens in smoking? In smoking, there is also change in the genes. There is mutation.
Yes, sir. There's mutation. There's a P.
Yes.
Some of the P53 mutations are there, and otherwise chromosome 9, 13.
And what do you think? A smoker versus non-smoker. What is the risk of them having oral cancer?
Risk. So the exact risk.
5 to 10 times.
5 to 10. Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you said he's also of alcohol consumption.
Yes,
Does
sir.
alcohol pose a risk for oral cancer?
So yes, sir. It lowers the local mucosal immunity, and it can have a synergistic effect with tobacco consumption for the
Yes.
development of oral
And
cancer.
it can be as high as 30 times. 30 to 40 times higher incidence of oral cancers when there is a combination of both smoking and alcohol.
Alcohol.
Okay. What other factors are important for these oral cancers? Apart
So
from, you talked of radiation,
yes,
you talked of smoking, alcohol. What else?
sir, there's any specific pre-malignant lesions
Like,
erythroplakia, leukoplakia,
yes,
melanoplakia, then
yes.
hyperplastic candidal infection, then any due to HPV, any warty lesion, it may undergo
HPV infection, yes.
malignant
And
transformation.
then there is another factors in particularly in Asian countries where people chew betel
Epstein-Barr
nut,
betel nut.
betel
Yes,
nut.
betel nut.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
particularly the tobacco.
Tobacco. Yes, sir.
Okay, so they are, and in India also there is some people who are reverse smoker.
Reverse smoke. Yes.
What is reverse smoking?
Sir, when the end of the cigarette or bidi from where the smoke comes out, that is kept inside the mouth.
Yes. So the lighted part of the
Like
cigarette or bidi is inside the mouth. So this is reverse smoking. Reverse smoking has higher incidence of malignancy than simple smoking. That is both heat and smoke, which is implicated for these cancers. And patient has very high incidence of cancers. And these happen particularly in India and other Asian countries, where people have the habit of having reverse smoke. Okay. Anything else which are implicated in the oral cancers? These are chronic irritation.
Chronic trauma.
Chronic irritation, a sharp teeth or a denture, ill-fitting dentures. Okay.
Yeah.
They are the important factors. So you should, in the history, try to find out whether this patient falls in this any of the predisposing factors for development of oral cancers. Okay. Next. Okay. Next. Yeah.
And,
Please carry on.
on examination or doing a general survey, the patient was examined in a well-lit room after taking informed consent. The patient is conscious, alert, cooperative, and oriented to time and place. Performance status is 90 as per Karnofsky scale. His BMI is 21.2, which is within normal limits. Patient is well hydrated. There is no pallor, cyanosis, jaundice, clubbing, edema noted on examination. Pulse rate is 82 per minute with with normal volume. Blood pressure is around 132 by 84 millimeters of mercury. The respiratory rate is 18 per minute. Temperature is within normal limits. The neck veins are not engorged, and cervical lymph node examination is described with the examination of the head and neck. Shall I proceed with the local examination?
Yeah.
So now, on examination, the facial symmetry is intact, and there is no visible fullness in the neck. The mouth opening is adequate. The oral dental hygiene is poor, and halitosis is present. Now, with respect to the lesion, a 2 into 3 centimeter lesion is seen over the right sublingual fold with irregular margins and everted edges, and an indurated base which extends 1.5 centimeter beyond the ulcer in all directions. And it is this lesion is located behind the right lower canine to the right lower second premolar tooth. The ulcer is non-tender and does not bleed on touch. There is no features of oral submucous fibrosis seen in the oral cavity. erythroplakic patches are noted in the floor of the mouth on the right side of the mouth adjacent to the lesion. There is no loss of teeth or loosening of teeth or sharp tooth present. There is no lesion noted in the other parts of the oral cavity. The parotid duct opening is seen at the normal side bilaterally. Examination of cranial nerve 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 did not reveal any abnormalities. On examination of the cervical lymph nodes, a freely mobile firm lymph node noted in the group 1B around 2 into 1 centimeter in size on the right side of the neck. The common carotid artery pulsation is felt bilaterally at normal site. Cervical spine examination did not reveal any abnormality. The ENT examination was within normal limits, and scalp examination did not yield any specific findings. The systemic examination was, as heart sounds were heard, respiratory air and bilaterally air entry was clinically within normal limits, and CNS examination was within normal limits. I'll tell the summary, sir.
Yeah.
A 55-year-old male patient presented with ulcer in the floor of the mouth on the right side for the last 4 months. It is insidious in onset and is rapidly increasing in size. There is no history suggestive of distant mets and constitutional features are absent. Patient has been smoking tobacco products for last 25 years. On examination, there is ulcer in the right side floor of the mouth, 2 into 3 centimeter in size. The ulcer has raised margin, floor is covered by necrotic gland tissue, and ill-defined borders, indurated edges are everted and rolled. There is a significant lymph node enlargement in the submandibular group. The lymph node is firm in consistency and free from the skin and mobile. Diagnosis: 55-year-old chronic tobacco smoker with an ulcerative growth of right-sided floor of the mouth with cervical lymphadenopathy, the malignancy of the oral cavity with the clinical stage of T2 N1 MX.
Okay. Come to the local examination of the oral cavity. Yeah. So once you describe this ulcer, so you have described about the size. That is one.
Yes.
You have described about the margin,
Yes.
the edges.
Yes.
And then once you have gone to the induration, you said 0.5 is beyond the ulcer in all directions. So where it is important to find out whether this is going, is a floor of the mouth, which area you define as a boundary of the floor of the mouth?
Sir, anteriorly.
How is this area? This is a horseshoe shaped area.
Horseshoe, yes, a U-shaped, horseshoe-shaped area. Yes.
You are horseshoe shaped area. So this is bounded where? Medial, lateral.
Sir, anteriorly, it is from the posterior border of the lip, which is like from the vermilion border. Then posteriorly, it is up till the below the up to the ventral surface of the tongue. Up till the posteriorly till the ventral surface.
It is not primarily about the lip. You see, that becomes the sulcus. From the mouth is inside the alveolus.
Exactly.
So if you come to the anterior limit is the frenulum of the trunk.
Yes.
And if you go medial lateral, the base of the tongue on the anterior tooth head, and laterally the alveolar margin.
Alveolar margin.
Oh. And posteriorly at the level of anterior pillar of tonsil.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is a horseshoe shaped area. So here the extent of the ulcer, it may invade into the tongue, yes. It may invade into the mandible. These are the two important areas you should try to find out on examination. So you have to comment specifically whether this ulcer is extending onto the mandible. And whether the ulcer is indurated around the mandible, because clinically it is not always easy to comment about mandibular invasion. So that has to finally to be ascertained by some investigation. But at least clinically, if you say there is a cleavage, if you can comment that there is a cleavage between the ulcer margin induration and the mandible, that means the mandible is not clinically involved.
Yes, sir.
Because involving mandible will also alter the T staging.
T staging, yes, sir.
Okay, so once you go for the T staging, you have to keep in mind this extent of the ulcer. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And then next. Next. Why these nerves? Once you're in the floor of the mouth, which nerves come specifically in the floor of the mouth? If you, the boundary you said is this boundary. So what nerve specifically comes in the floor of the mouth? Two important nerve comes.
So yes, sir. One is the lingual nerve, sir.
Good. And another is another which lies on the hyoglossus. Supply the tongue muscles.
So the hypoglossal nerve.
Hypoglossal. So you can examine all the nerves, but the more important nerves which are in the floor of the mouth cancer is the lingual nerve and the hypoglossal nerve. How did you test the lingual nerve?
Sir, I do not know this examination.
Lingual nerve supplies what? Is a sensory nerve.
Sensory nerve to like
supplies the anterior tooth of the tongue. So you have to test by taste sensation, where the patient can tell you whether he has got loss of taste on the anterior tooth of the tongue. So lingual nerve is tested by taste sensation. And how did you have check the 12th nerve?
So the hypoglossal nerve, sir.
Yes.
Sir, we by looking at the tongue movements, that ask the patient to stick the tongue out and move it internally from cheek to cheek, and also I assess the articulation of the patient.
What are the findings if you have a unilateral 12th nerve palsy?
Sir,
what happens?
So if there's unilateral palsy,
on which side the tongue deviates?
Sir, the opposite side, sir.
Are you sure?
Like if unilateral, so there will be atrophy of the unilateral.
Which side the tongue deviates on one side hypoglossal palsy? This is on the same side.
Same side. Okay.
Because genioglossus pushes the tongue to the opposite side.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have a palsy, if you ask the patient to go to the tongue, it deviates to the same side.
Okay.
Unlike facial palsy.
Opposite.
Okay. What else? The tongue movements. You may have atrophy. You may have atrophy of that side of the tongue. Okay. You said you have tested 9th nerve. How do you test 9th nerve?
So we'll touch the back of the throat with the sterile tongue depressor or cotton tip applicator.
Yes.
And I will tell the patient to swallow. So there'll be we can check the swallowing sensation. There'll be a gag reflex. We can check for the gag reflex.
That is not 9th. That is 10th. 9th again is a test sensation. Difficult to test. 9th supplies the
9th is the glossopharyngeal nerve, and
yes, it supplies one muscle.
Yes, sir. Yes, I cannot say that.
Yes, so it is again by test sensation. Okay.
Yes.
So you now examine the cervical nodes. Okay. Yes. So you are trying to say that there is one node involved in the neck.
Yes, sir.
So how do you ascertain that this node is clinically significant? Which nodes in the neck you will term as a clinically significant node?
Sir, by clinical examination, so the size should be at least more than 1.5 centimeter.
Once good enough.
1 centimeter.
1 centimeter, more than 1 centimeter size is good enough for a metastatic node. Okay. In some side, even a 7 millimeter node is also significant. Okay. So 1 centimeter node is one size. Next is.
So the consistency, if it is a hard node, we will suspect.
Firm to hard node consistency is a significant node. A fixed node, if there is a tumor extension beyond the capsule, it may be a fixed node. A fixed node is always a clinically significant node.
Yes, a fixed node.
Okay. And more so when you have a lesion in the oral cavity and you find a node there, what may be the cause of this nodal enlargement apart from metastatic?
Apart from metastatic, it may be.
If patient has got an ulcer, and you have a node palpable.
Yes,
one possible definition is metastatic. how else this node may get enlarged?
Sir, if due to the poor oral hygiene, if there is any local
Yes.
infection.
And then ulcer is exposed area. There is always a chance of infection spreading to the lymph nodes.
Yes.
So in that case, it can be a hyperplastic node because of infection.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you said common carotid artery pulsations are failed bilaterally. Why is carotid pulsation examination important in oral cancers?
Sir, because it will affect our staging of the disease. If the tumor is involving the carotid artery, we might not feel the pulsation, and then we may suspect carotid artery involvement. Then it will become T4B.
Yes.
And,
So in all oral cancers, particularly if you have a small ulcer of 2 centimeters, unlikely to involve the carotid. But you have large tumor in the oral cavity, in the floor, or in the gingival sulcus, or in the tongue. These are the tumors which can grow outward and can involve the carotid sheath. Not only carotid pulsation, it can involve the carotid sheath. Encasement of carotid sheath indicates a very advanced local disease. The advanced disease is classified as moderately advanced disease and grossly advanced disease.
Right.
So in encasement of carotid sheath is a grossly advanced disease. It's T4B.
Yes.
Okay. Next. You said ENT examination was in the normal limits. You cannot comment that on clinical examination. Because for a clinical examination, the ENT, you have not done indirect laryngoscopy.
No.
Okay.
We have to do.
So you have not done a nasal endoscopy. Now to say this ENT is normal, what you've done is clinical examination. So you can examine the nares and the part of the nasal cavity that you have seen. You can just look at the oropharynx, and beyond that you cannot see. So if you, in the exam you're not supposed to do this laryngoscopy. So you can comment that there is no obvious lesion in the oropharynx area, the posterior third of the tongue, and the nasal cavity. You cannot comment in one line that ENT examination was in normal limits, because ENT examination includes just a visual inspection and added by the indirect laryngoscopy and nasal endoscopy.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. Next. Okay. Next. Yeah. Don't again. You are writing male patient. You just always comment say 55-year gentleman presented with this. Okay. Fine. Come to the diagnosis. So you consider this ulcer as a malignant lesion in the oral cavity.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So again, if you say oral cavity, at the end of examination, you are not specifying the site of the growth, because you are saying the oral cavity is a large area. It includes almost 8 distinct anatomical sites. Yes. Oral cavity includes almost 8 distinct anatomical sites. So here you specify malignancy of the floor of the mouth on the right side. Yes, sir. Which clinical stage of these two? What in 8th edition of AJCC, what is the change in just T classification?
Sir, they have included the depth of invasion.
Yes. So here now also we are giving the T2 that is based on the clinical examination. Yes. This is not including the biopsy report. So now this staging has to be done after the biopsy, because now this also is a situation where the staging is altered by depth of invasion. So yes. What are the AJCC staging for T lesions in the oral cavity?
Yes, sir. The T1 lesion will have the greatest dimension of the tumor less than equal to 2 centimeter with yes. a depth of invasion less than 5 millimeter. If
what do you mean by depth of invasion? Because in melanoma, the this tumor is taken as what? Thickness. In SCC, in the oral cavity is not thickness. Try to understand. Is not the thickness. The tumor may be bulging outward. So it is not the thickness of the tumor. It is the invasion to the deeper layers. Okay. So that is important. So less than 5 millimeter. T1, T2.
Yes. T2 is a tumor less than equal to 2 centimeter, but with a depth of invasion of more than 5 millimeter, or a tumor greater than 2 centimeter.
More than 5 and less than T2
more
is
than
less
5,
than
less
10.
than 10, less than 10,
More
less
than
than
5, but less than 10.
less than 10.
Or
Or a tumor greater than 2 centimeter but less than equal to 4 centimeter with a
greater
depth
than
of
2 and limit, there is a limit.
less
2
than
to,
equal to 4.
yes.
Less than
So,
equal to 4
more than
with
2 equal to or less than 4 centimeter with depth of invasion less than
10 millimeter.
10 millimeter. So you should be very clear about this staging. Then T3.
T3 is tumor greater than 2 centimeter less than equal to 4 centimeter with depth of invasion of more than 10 millimeter.
Yes.
Or tumor more than 4
More than 10 millimeter, but less than
sir,
less than 20 millimeter.
less than 20. Okay, less than 20
More
millimeter.
than 10 millimeter, but less than 20 millimeter. 20 more than 20 millimeter invasion comes in the T4.
T4. Okay, sir. Okay.
Then T4 is
then sir,
advanced disease.
yes, sir, moderately or very advanced disease. Here the tumor will be more than 4 centimeter in size with
No,
depth
any size. T4 is any size tumor. More than 4 centimeter came in the T3, na?
Yes, sir.
So in T4, the criteria is tumor of any size with involvement of the local structures like cortical bone, mandible, on the upper side maxilla.
Yes, sir.
And then the tongue muscles of the floor of the mouth.
Yes, sir.
Or depth of invasion more than 20 millimeters.
20 millimeter. Yes.
And T4B is grossly advanced disease.
Yes.
When do you say it's a grossly advanced disease?
So when the growth invades the skull base,
or masticator space.
Masticator
It involves the pterygoids.
Yes, sir.
Pterygoids in the base of the skull.
Yes.
So invert the pterygoids. Patient will have difficulty in opening mouth, difficulty in cheeks, and masticator space, base of the skull, and encasement of the carotid sheath.
Yes.
Encasement of carotid sheath.
Carotid sheath. Yes, sir.
Now you say clinically it is N1.
Yes, sir.
How does the nodal staging done in AJCC 8?
Sir, N1, if there is metastasis in a single ipsilateral node less than equal to 3 centimeter with no extranodal extension.
Yes, no extension. That is, one is a clinical assessment, and then the further will be by your histology, where you find there is no extracapsular extension.
Yes, sir.
Then?
Then N2 is metastasis in single ipsilateral node 3 to 6 centimeter or multiple ipsilateral nodes all less than equal to 6 centimeter, or metastasis in bilateral or contralateral node all less than 6 centimeter, and none of them having extranodal extension.
Yes. So it is again a N2A, B, and C as you have gone serially.
Yes, sir.
N2A is same side node, more than 3, less than 6, external extension negative. N2B is ipsilateral multiple nodes, none more than 6 centimeter, no external extension.
Yes, sir.
And N2C is bilateral or contralateral node, none more than 6 centimeter, and external extension absent.
Yes, sir.
And N3 is?
N3, sir, when the metastasis node more than 6 centimeter,
yes,
and extranodal extension is absent.
Yes.
Or the metastasis
any number node with external extension will be grouped as N3. Yes. So they are the clinical classification. So we have given this patient diagnosis of CT2N1MX. Why do you say this is a malignant ulcer?
Sir,
what are the points in favor?
Yes, sir. So points in favor as per from history is that the ulcer is rapidly increasing in size. It presented for the last 4 months, and also there is a history of consumption of tobacco.
Yes. And alcohol
for last 25 years, and consumption of alcohol also. And by examination, this ulcer is noted to have irregular margins and borders, and an everted edge, which is seen in malignant ulcers. And so that is why I'm saying it is a malignant ulcer.
Any duty you like to put forward for this ulcer? Any differential diagnosis apart from uh, anything else?
Sir,
Some
it may be HPV due to HPV infection.
what else?
And then
You see,
sir,
tuberculosis
traumatic
always comes.
maybe, but
Tuberculosis ulcer may have some similar to malignant ulcer. Although tuberculosis ulcer is described as an undermined ages, but tuberculosis ulcer it always comes. And if you have a local some sharp teeth, it can be a traumatic ulcer. Okay.
Okay.
So how will you proceed with this patient? How will you proceed with this patient for management?
Yes, sir. I would like to do certain investigations to I would like to do certain investigations to stage my disease. Then I would
Not stage, confirm the
first
diagnosis.
confirm my diagnosis. I would like to do certain investigations to confirm my diagnosis. Then to certain investigations to stage my disease, and then finally investigations to plan further management.
Yeah. So how do you proceed?
So first, I would like to confirm my diagnosis by performing a wedge biopsy from this lesion, so to confirm the malignancy.
Where from you take the biopsy?
So from
which side of the ulcer?
From the edge of the ulcer.
Why? Why do you take the biopsy from the edge of the ulcer?
So that is the most mitotically active area. It is a transition zone between the normal tissue and the malignant tissue.
So the center of the lesion may have necrotic tissue. The most proliferating tumor cells are found in the junction between the normal and the tumor tissue. Yes. So that is the site you take a OH biopsy. Yes. Okay. So biopsy gives a diagnosis of squamous cell carcinoma.
Yes, sir. And
well defined squamous cell carcinoma. How do you proceed?
So I would perform a contrast enhanced CT of the head and neck to look for local invasion and to stage the disease. I would also do a ultrasound examination of the neck to document.
If you have done a CT, yes. If you done a CT, how ultrasound is going to help you again?
Sir, with respect to the cervical lymph nodes.
You mean cervical lymph are picked up better with ultrasound than CT? You see, if you say CT as the investigation, then ultrasound is not required.
Not okay.
Okay. If you have a growth in the ulcer in the tongue, and you like to assess the soft tissue involvement, in that case, MRI will come. The ulcer you have described is not invading into the tongue. The tongue movements are normal. You mean the mandible is normal. So in that case, a CT scan is good enough. Don't confuse with more and more investigations. A CT of the head and neck will give an exact idea about the ulcer itself, and you can see the adjacent areas. Okay, if it is a tongue cancer, or is it cancer in the more posterior third of the oral cavity or the piriform fossa, in that case, MRI is better because it gives a soft tissue delineation better. Okay, so ultrasound is not required if you are having a good CT scan. So, what are the characteristics of a metastatic node on, as you said, ultrasound? Fine.
Yes, sir.
So, what are the characteristics of a metastatic node on ultrasonography?
Yes, sir. On a metastatic node on ultrasound, will first show a change in. There will be a change in shape. So, from a bean.
Starting the size. You say clinically there is a size. So, what you have said clinically, ultrasound size may vary.
Size.
So you find a node on ultrasonography which is 1 centimeter more, that is a significant node on imaging.
Yes, sir.
Next is
the shape. Shape becomes spherical or round shaped from the normal shape of a kidney. Bean shaped or kidney shaped.
Normally bean shaped, this shape changes to a round or oval node. Then
so there's loss of the corticomedullary differentiation.
What is that? What is that differentiation? If you do ultrasound in a node, what do you find in the center? What do you find in the periphery?
So like in the center, the germinal center of the lymph node.
What in ultrasound gives a picture?
Yeah,
with some clear description.
So hypoechoic.
Where is normal node? Which area is hypoechoic? Which area is hyperechoic?
The center is hypoechoic.
Yes.
And the periphery
is hyperechoic.
Hyperechoic.
What happens in a metastatic node?
So it will completely become
So this central hypoechoic area is lost.
central
We
hypoxic.
have invasion of this tumor cell in the middle of the node first. So the central hypoechogenic area is replaced by hyperechoic area.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is else seen in the normal node?
Else in a normal node.
If you insert normal node,
Yes,
you find there is a clear outline.
clear.
A normal node has got a clear outline. That is the intact capsule in the node.
Yes, sir.
A metastatic node may have a irregular outline, or there may be breach. There you can demonstrate a breach in the capsule of the lymph node.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Again, a normal node, as it is located in the tissue, there is a cleavage between the outer limit of the node and the normal tissue.
Yes.
So you find a area of hypoechoic area around the lymph node and the normal tissue.
Okay.
This is known as peripheral halo.
Peripheral halo.
Is a peripheral halo which is around the node and the normal tissue. Once is a metastatic node, as the node enlarges, this peripheral halo is lost. And lastly, you apply Doppler with this ultrasound, you will find the lymph node become hypervascular. So this is a very common question asked for all other sites in maybe the breast or the groin nodes. So we do ultrasound, and these are the important findings on imaging, which will suggest that is a metastatic node. This is a situation where you may have change in size, change in the shape, loss of central hypoechoic area, then outline is irregular. There may be extracapsular extension of the lymph node metastatic area, loss of peripheral halo, and the lymph node is hypervascular. So these are the important features of a metastatic node. And then you say CT scan, same findings in CT scan.
Yes, sir.
CT scan also may demonstrate all the findings as you see in ultrasonography. Okay, but in CT scan, this can be density, not in echogenicity. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what else? So if you have done a CT of this area and CT has given these findings, what else is required for management of this patient? Important investigations.
Yes, sir. Now I will proceed after now staging the disease. I'll proceed with certain pre-operative investigation.
No, no. This is a patient who is a smoker, who is having alcohol for a long time. So you have not done a complete ENT examination.
Okay.
Patient who has got these predisposing factors,
Yes, sir.
these are the patient who may have a second primary in this area.
Yes, sir.
So you should do a complete ENT examination in the form of indirect laryngoscopy.
Okay.
You can do a upper GI scopy also.
Okay.
Because you have to exclude a synchronous cancer in this area. Patient who is alcoholic, patient has got a chronic smoker, may have field cancer addition.
Okay.
So you have to do a complete ENT examination with upper GI endoscopy and laryngoscopy to exclude any other cancer, because some areas are not amenable to just clinical examination.
Yes, sir.
Okay, piriform fossa, posterior part of the tongue, base of the tongue. Okay, the posterior part of the oropharynx, they are not approachable. Even the laryngeal carcinoma. These are the patients who may have associated laryngeal carcinoma. So a complete examination. And now the recommendation is patient with head neck cancer should have a CT chest as part of staging. So this is a routine recommendation now.
Okay.
You have to do a CT of the chest. For all head neck cancer, a CT chest is important for staging. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes,
this is the staging workup: a complete ENT examination and a CT of the chest.
Okay.
Next is the planning of treatment.
Yes, sir.
What's your plan for this patient?
For this patient, sir, I would like to proceed with the wide local excision of the ulcer, and yes, sir.
How wide is wide for oral cancer?
Yes, a margin of 1 centimeter
So if it's a well differentiated tumor, a margin of 0.5
1
to 1 centimeter is good enough.
Yes, sir. Then
So you have
I
to
would,
take this margin.
yes, sir. And I would
And
like,
and once you have a lesion in the floor of the mouth, which may be either anterior floor or in the posterior floor of the mouth.
yes, sir.
So I have not shown us a picture. Where the lesion is?
So anteriorly, sir.
Anterior. Okay, fine. So once you have planned for this, what are the preoperative counseling you should do with the patient? You are going to excise a lesion in the floor of the mouth.
Hmm.
You mean a wide excision. You need to excise once and around this, and probably you will need some reconstruction.
Yes, sir.
And these are the patients who may have some post-op uh, uh, problems which might come up, which needs a good counseling. So what are the things you counsel with the patient before you proceed for surgery?
Sir, we will counsel him regarding he might face difficulties in speech, swallowing, and there.
That depends, you see, that depends on your tumor assessment
Huh.
and your planning. If there is a large tumor involving the base of the tongue or large tumor involving the side of the tongue in the mandible, the extent of surgery will be more extensive.
Yes, sir.
So in those cases, effect will be more. Patient who has got a force outside the floor of the mouth, not involving mandible, not with the base of side of the tongue, will not be a situation that you need a very wide excision with a lot of excision and reconstruction. Okay, so all depends on what the lesion is and what is the possible plan. So if you have a very major surgery being considered where you need to take part of the mandible out, you need to take part of the tongue out, then these problems are more important. And the other patient who may have difficulty in what? Speech.
Speech.
They have difficulty in swallowing.
Swallowing. Yes, sir.
They have change in contour of the face.
Yes, sir.
They have a difficulty in swallowing the saliva even. And they have difficulty in speech. So these are the things one should counsel before the patient is taken up for surgery.
Yes.
Now you said you will do a excision of this lesion.
Yes, sir.
In the floor of the mouth cancer, unless it is very anterior, just in the near the frenum, if it is more posterior, what are the usual approach to reach that site? How can you reach that area for wide excision? What is the approach?
Yes, sir. So the approaches are some intra.
Oh, I missed another thing. Yes.
Yes.
For mandibular involvement, CT scan can give an idea. So apart from CT scan, what other imaging may help to assess the mandibular involvement?
Sir, mandibular, we can do as an orthopantogram.
Yes, known as panoramic view.
Panoramic.
Is a panoramic view of the mandible, which will show you the mandible clearly, and any osteolytic lesions or any peripheral lesion in the mandible can give you the idea about the mandible involvement. Because mandible involvement is very important. Because if the mandible is involved on imaging, then you have to consider this patient for some form of mandible resection, which can be either, we'll come to that. Okay.
Yes.
So you have now planned for a wide excision, and what is the approach? How can you reach the floor of the mouth?
Yes, it can be oral approach, or it can be via.
So if it is more anterior, you can go by intraoral approach. So you can use a mouth gag and reach the floor of the mouth.
Yes.
And more posterior in the front of the mouth.
Then we can use the median or paramedian mandible.
First is to reach the mandible, you have to split the lip. So you should be lip split.
Lip split.
And mandibulotomy, which be either midline mandibulotomy or lateral mandibulotomy.
Lateral mandibulotomy. Okay,
that is the approach.
Yes, sir.
Usually, this malignancy is not approached to the subapical root.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have to approach by a midline lip split with midline mandibulotomy or lateral mandibulotomy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, intraoperatively, how will you assess the mandibular involvement? Sir, how to assess intraoperatively the mandible involvement is there or not?
Sir, we will check, sir, like if
One is mobility,
mobility.
and
Okay.
second is try to lift the periosteum.
Yes, sir.
Try to lift the periosteum of the mandible. Is a mesoperiosteum. Here is mesoperiosteum. So if the mesoperiosteum is lifted easily,
Yes, sir.
that means the mandible cortex is not involved.
Not you. Yes, sir.
So if there is a mandible involvement, what are the options for managing this mandible involvement? What are the options for managing this mandible involvement?
Yes, sir. We can, sir, if the only periosteum is involved, we can go for a marginal mandibulectomy. If
Yes.
the
What do you
gross
remove?
involvement,
What you remove in margin? What do you mean by marginal mandibulectomy?
so the inner rim of the mandible is removed in marginal mandibulectomy.
So in marginal mandibulectomy, you remove a rim of mandible
Yes,
from lingula up to the mental foramen.
lingula, ventral foramen. Yes, sir.
So that is done when there is minimal involvement of mandible or the tumor or ulcer is abating onto the mandible. But gross mandible involvement with bone destruction, the treatment should be
A segmental mandibular resection.
either a segmental mandibulectomy or heavy mandibulectomy. You can remove the half of the mandible or you can do segmental mandibulectomy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the patient who are likely to have is ulcer confined to the floor of the mouth and you've done wide excision. How will you manage the defect you have created?
So this can be this is done by, it can be done with free flaps, sir, such as
What are the options? You see, there are in the floor of the mouth. The things are what? One is you have a submandibular duct coming up from the floor,
yes,
and you have the muscles in the floor of the mouth.
yes, sir.
Okay. So if the tumor is not invading the underlying muscles, then you need not excise this floor of the mouth muscles. You don't remove the hypoglossal or mylohyoid or the genioglossus muscle.
Oh.
So what are the options? Once you have cleared the defect, just tell me the options for managing the defect. What are the options? Number one is
one option is primary repair.
yes.
Then,
What is the problem with primary? What is the problem of primary repair?
problem is like the loss of mass, the tissue mass.
So what happens?
There's
You have removed this ulcer,
yes,
taking once in a margin. So you have gone to where? Gone towards the tongue, lateral margin.
lateral.
You have gone towards the mandible.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you do a primary closure, what is the problem?
The recess or a gap is there, and
There will be difficulty in tongue movement.
difficulty in tongue. Okay.
There will be doing tongue movement. So patient may have difficulty in speech. Patient may have difficulty in swallowing. Patient may have difficulty in swallowing saliva.
Sorry.
So primary closure is possible when the defect is quite small.
Yes.
Otherwise, primary closure will be having a problem with the adjacent structures. Next option is
sir, reconstruction.
no. Before that, reconstruction comes later. Minimal options. Don't do anything.
Don't really. Okay. Yes,
You keep the area open.
Open. Yes, sir.
Allow to heal by granulation. Okay, small defects can be allowed to heal by granulation.
Yes.
Then the options of coverage. And in coverage, you should always think of local flap coverage. There are some local flaps which can be used for this coverage.
Yes,
so what are the local flap coverage? Which are all described.
Yes, so one is a bilateral nasolabial flap.
Before that, in the oral cavity itself, there are some flaps.
Oh, so I'm unaware, sir, what the oral cavity.
You can take a buccinator because the cheek is not involved.
Yes, sir.
Okay, a buccinator mucosal flap.
Okay.
Okay, you lift this flap and slide it down to the floor of the mouth. You can take a tongue flap. You can take a tongue flap and cover the defect. So these are the local flaps. Apart from this, now go outside. You say nasolabial flap.
Yes, sir. And then the radial artery forearm flap.
Yeah, you see, free flaps are last. Free flaps are done more and more by plastic surgeons, and there are a lot of options. There are a lot of options. Apart from this, you can take a petrous major microvenous flap,
Yes, sir.
which are bulkier. For a small oral cavity float defect, pectoralis major is a bulkier flap, but it can be used. People are using pectoralis major. People may use even a dentopectoral flap. So there are a lot of options, and the more recent option people are now conversing the microvascular techniques. This radial forearm flap is now being used. This is a versatile flap where you can raise a free flap and do anastomosis in the oral cavity. What other free flap is used?
The fibular free flap and
Huh?
a fibular free
Lateral, lateral thigh flap.
lateral thigh flap. Yes, sir.
Okay, lateral thigh flap.
Yes, sir.
And if you have done a mandibular resection, how are you going to reconstruct? What are the options for mandible? You have done a segmental mandibulectomy.
Yes, sir.
Or heavy mandibulectomy.
Yes, sir.
So what are the options for mandibular reconstruction?
So like we can get a part of the fibular flap, which includes the part of the
One is by using the fibular graft.
Fibular graft.
Second.
And sir, from the iliac crest, the graft can be an iliac crest graft.
It can be a fibular graft. It can be iliac crest. Anything else?
Sir, then
anything else? It was done quite early. A lot of people does this. A rib graft.
Rib graft. Okay, yes.
A rib graft.
Okay.
And if you are doing a radial
osteocute.
Radial osseous free flap.
Radial osseous. Okay, sir.
Okay, you are doing a free flap, the radial forearm. Yes, with that, you take a segment of radius. That can be used for small segmental dissection. So you need not know the details of everything, but at least you should know what are the different flaps that can be used for the contact of the mouth. How do you address the lymph node here? This patient has got a clinically N1 node. Yes. How are you going to address the node?
So we will proceed with a modified radical neck dissection for the right side.
The right side. Yes. In which situation you will consider the bilateral node dissection? You said in this patient you will do a right-sided MRND.
Yes, sir.
And what are the conditions will you need to consider for doing a bilateral node dissection?
Sir, if the lesion is central or it is extending towards the across the midline.
If the lesion is in the front of the mouth in the anterior aspect,
yes, sir,
which is near the midline, because lymphatic is the midline crossing on the either side. So in that case, at least on the involved side you will do MRND, and non-involved side you have to do a selective node dissection. Yes. Taking lymph nodes level from 1 to 3.
1 to 3, supraoma. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if it is near the midline and on involved side you MRND and other side you do a selective node dissection, supraomohyoid node dissection, taking the level from level 1 to 3.
1 to 3. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by modified radical neck? What are the different modifications?
Yes, it can be type 1, 2, or 3. So depending on the structures preserved, if we preserve the accessory nerve, it is type 1. Type 2 is present.
Preserve the nerve is type 1.
Preserve the nerve and vein, the internal jugular vein, type 2. And if we preserve the nerve, vein, and the muscle, the sternocleidomastoid muscle, it is the type 3.
Yes. So the different modification of the node dissection.
Yes.
After surgery, what treatment you plan for this patient, and how you decide about the adjuvant treatment in this patient?
Yes, for adjuvant treatments, I would like to proceed with radiotherapy for treatment for this patient.
In all cases?
No, sir. It will depend on the grade of the tumor.
The adjuvant treatment options are what? Chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and
chemoradiotherapy,
and immunotherapy.
Immunotherapy. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are the indications of radiotherapy in the post-operative in this patient?
Yes, sir. Sir, if there is a high grade, it is a high grade tumor. The size of the tumor is very high. If there was extranodal extension present in the lymph node on pathological staging, and Sir, if like a locally advanced, meaning initial clinical stage was very high, then sir we'll give radiotherapy for this patient.
So radiotherapy is to the local site and to the lymph node area.
Lymph node.
If it is a T1, T2 lesion, well differentiated, you have done a complete excision, all the margins are free, there is no deeper invasion, then radiotherapy to the local site is not required.
Yes, sir.
You have done a complete MRND. There is no external extension. In that case, radiation may not be required. But in locally advanced disease, if it is a T3 tumor, T4 tumor, even if done a surgery, patient needs a local radiotherapy. Okay. What about chemotherapy?
Sir, chemotherapy, sir, not meaning like chemo can be given with radiotherapy, meaning chemoradiotherapy.
So same indications.
Yes, sir.
Patient has got advanced disease. There is a role for giving the patient chemotherapy.
Chemotherapy. Yes.
Is there any role for only radiotherapy in oral cancers?
Yes, sir. In
When?
T1, T2 lesions, sir, there is a role of giving only radiotherapy.
When?
Sir,
T1, T2 lesions, when it is not bulky lesions, when the depth of invasion is less. If there is a deeper invasion, in that case, surgery is preferred over radiation. For superficial lesions, the surgery and radiation has got equal efficacy. You can treat the patient with radiation.
yes,
But for deeper lesions and bulkier lesions, surgery is preferred over radiotherapy. Okay. Done. Okay.
Two answers.
So any question from anybody? Milind? Any clarification you want?
No, sir, nothing like.
Okay. So for oral cancer, you should be
the
knowing about the
fluids,
etiological factors,
yes.
presentation and good staging on clinical presentation, then differential diagnosis, investigations, and treatment. In treatment, you do not know the details of reconstruction, but you should be knowing the options for reconstruction, because in oral cancers is a big area. Cancer, the leaf has got one type of reconstruction. Tongue resection has got different type of reconstruction. You discussed about that last class. Okay, so the reconstruction depends on the defect created and how are going to salvage the patient in the form of his functions. Okay, how are going to follow this patient up, Milind?
Yes, sir.
What in follow-up you look for?
So in follow-up, we will do a good examination of the oral cavity if there is any signs of any recurrence, because there are many many synchronous lesions or metachronous lesions can be present. So we will follow up at a 3-month interval in the first year and 4-month interval in the in the second and third year, and then we'll follow up annually after that. And
6 months for next 3 years, up to 5 years, 6 months, and then at the end of 5 years, it will be yearly follow-up. And the idea of follow-up is here the patient who may develop either local recurrence or these are patient who may develop second cancer.
Yes.
Because here the patient has got predisposed factors for developing oral cancer. They might develop a second malignancy or a local recurrence or a node. Suppose it was a N0 node. What is the strategy for managing N0 node in oral cancers?
So we'll do a selective lymph node dissection, supraomoid lymph node dissection.
The recommendation is there is a high chance of metastasis in these nodes. So you can consider for doing a selective node dissection.
Risk is more than 20%.
The common site is?
Common. So for the 1B level 2 is the common site.
So Amritendra asked a question. What are the indications for immunotherapy in oral cancer?
Yes.
Immunotherapy.
So I'm not exactly aware. No, sir, I'm not aware about the immunotherapy part.
There is a drug called cetuximab.
Yes.
Where you have a genetic background of these cancers, or it's a age-related cancer
Yes, sir.
and locally advanced cancers.
Hmm.
When you have a grossly advanced disease,
Yes, sir.
in that case, the immunotherapy might help with cetuximab. Okay.
So one question I had, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, a role of is there any role of routine FNAC from the clinically detected lymph nodes?
If it is a significant node with all the clinical and the radiological features, there is no indication for doing a routine FNA from that. A borderline lymph node where you think is metastatic or infective, in that case, you can do a FNA. Otherwise, FNA is not required for lymph node metastasis.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Milind. Good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
If P1 is 20 and small size, we can follow.